Well, so the crystal gems aren't evil. Looks like I owe you a Coke, Smithers.
Well, that we know of. Maybe just the whole, defending the Earth is just cover. They really want to blow it up. No, they're probably okay. I was kind of right, though. They are kind of fugitives or whatever, at least outcasts. It sounds like they were like the original defenders or whatever of Earth, or maybe they're like, I don't know. I mean, we again,
convicted of a crime they didn't truly commit. The A-Team!
Oh, I was going to say, just love! Yeah, I mean, this is another one where we get some more information. Peridot comes back. I love that name. And a lot of cool... the only way I can describe it is stuff! I love it in, like, Miyazaki movies and, like, in Waterworld and stuff where it sort of shows how the made-up technology works. And
you know what? I will say this. This always happens, I think, in, like, cartoons and stuff and movies, and I feel like it's all this alien technology that is working way too hard to do the simplest things. It's like, to activate, you had to, like, take this thing down, do this, and then becomes, like, this drop, and then it turns into a marble thing, hits a button. I'm like, really? There was no easier way somehow to do that?
Well, but I mean, it's because we don't understand it. Maybe someone, like, from a different world or past whatever, comes and sees, like, what we go through to drive a car and turn on and all the rules we have to follow and stuff.
Don't get me wrong. It looks cool.
It
was
awesome.
Great animation.
I love
it was
that
awesome.
stuff.
But I always kind of sit back and I'm like, wow, for such an advanced civilization, they have these needlessly complicated ways of doing things like flipping a switch.
But we also we don't know how complicated, like, a lot of this stuff is. I mean, it's kind of like going to a nuclear missile. It's like, well, can you just push a button and launch it? Well, sure, but you kind of want a little bit more caution with it.
No, we need more safety features. We need marbles.
Yes. Well, that's kind of what I like about this episode, too. Because, so the gems, I mean, we talked about this before, are definitely, shoot first, ask questions never. And Steve is trying to fix that.
Steve and me was like, I love that line where he's just like, well, I think now's the most appropriate time to ask questions, when they're just like, we have an enemy that we know nothing about. Now's not the time to ask questions. Well, I think that's the perfect time to ask questions. I'm like, well...
He's always diplomatic, which it's definitely showing the benefits of at times. But, I was just thinking this episode, too,
The funny thing is like, they're like, we learned this was a bad idea, but really for the sake of the audience, I'm like, Steven did the right thing, because I'm like, well, now we know.
Well, no, but on top of that, they did say we know more than we did before if he didn't go up there, but we might have just brought a whole ton of hell on us, most likely, if I probably guaranteed
Steven advanced the plot, so it was good that he did what he did.
Well, yes, for us, but for them, it's kind of half and half. But that's what I was saying.
Well, they're not telling him anything, so fuck that.
No, so many times.
If they had just fucking told him, then we, the audience, wouldn't need this scene either.
That's kind of true, too. But there's so many times where, like, diplomacy... There's a time for diplomacy, and there's a time to be uber cautious and paranoid. And I like the fact this show is never one or the other. It's like and I think it makes very clear you're not going to know when, and you're going to make mistakes with it. Sometimes it's right to go in and just guns a-blazing. Other times it's right to, talk it through, but you're never fully going to know. You just have to use your best judgment. And your best judgment is not always going to be right. In fact, I think it's statistically impossible for anyone's best judgment to always be right.
Yeah. I don't know.
My favorite line is from Garnet, just like, we can't stop these things forever. Well, yes, we can, but I don't want to.
I really don't want to. Yeah, that was brilliant.
I love it.
I also liked the control room lady or whatever at the end, just, I'm going to report this. Like, it was very much just, I'm telling.
Well, you know what I like about that, too? I laughed at that line, but then when I thought about it, I'm like, actually, that could be really bad. Like, there's others, there's people above her, like, who's all gonna know about this and what are they gonna do? I thought they really got the tension in this episode really well. For just, you don't know what's going on, and you legitimately are not sure, is this okay or is this not? Is this Peridot person, actually a good person, just looks bad, or looks bad and is bad? And I think there's just all this uncomfortable tension throughout the whole thing, and when you're seeing Steven talk to her, you're also kind of like, okay, where is this going? Like, you You don't want to see him get hurt. You don't want to see anything bad happen. You just have no idea what angle it's going to take. I mean, for the most part, the gems seem to be right, that pretty much everything that comes there is trying to kill him and do bad stuff, and doesn't want to listen to them. But you also kind of take Steven's side where it's like, okay, not everything can be evil. Now, I mean, they definitely tried to attach some emotion when she crushed that one marble a few episodes ago. Just
Poor
like, oh, they're kind of cute, whatever, and then just splat, and now we see a bunch of them
I do
get
give this
action
episode this, there were marbles and there was some madness.
Yes.
So. As advertised.
Yes.
No, I feel like there's plot.
Yeah, like it's
and
getting
this
more and more
excites me.
interesting.
Like
Yeah.
it's like the piecemeal way of doing it was good, but I feel like finally, like, okay, we're seeing more of these episodes now where they're actually like, no, let's advance the story. And even the side episodes, because the previous one felt more like a side episode. But that was still advancing the
They're
plot.
still
I'm like,
learning,
all right, this
yeah.
is filling in the blanks about, Rose, Amethyst, Steven's dad, and so yeah, no, the going at a pretty good pace.
You sort of need
exciting.
Ship's exciting. There's sort of this thing with like Gravity Falls, Adventure Time, and this show, probably even more, where they like a good half of them are kind of as we call them filler episodes. Hey, just something goofy. Maybe you learn a little something about character, great. Maybe the tiniest bit about the plot is dropped in, but then you have the other half, which is like continuing this big mystery. And it's one of those things where I'm always interested in the mysteries. In all of these shows, I've never not been interested in what was going on.
The funny thing is, Gravity Falls, not so much. I actually, like, the writing I thought was so solid and funny that the mystery's fine. I'm not saying I hate it. I totally enjoy it, but it's not something that I'm like, oh, I'm in this for the mystery. This one's the opposite. I think the writing's decent and the jokes are decent, but like the mystery I find more interesting than.
Well, and with
like when there's a side episode, I'm a little more like in Gravity Falls. When there's a side episode, generally I'm like, it's
the writing's so good.
Yeah,
it's
still really funny. This one, I'm just like, well, that was fun. There was a little Zen kind of meditation there, just some random stuff that happened. But I'm like, but what's going on with the ship? With the marbles, the marbles. So,
I will say, with the only one I can think of that never fully addresses, I mean, maybe one or two little ones, but like Adventure Time never fully says, hey, there's a big mystery here and we're trying to figure it out. It's more like once in a while there's something that's like, oh, I want to know what's going on with like whatever, like he has a father in it and stuff like that, but that's kind of a side thing. They more kind of like, in a way what this one does, they sort of drop the information that they already know, except Steven doesn't know it. So we want to know because he wants to know, obviously. What'd you think of the, was it the unfamiliar familiar?
oh my god!
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, in like 30 seconds, this show literally satirized and summed up 20 years of kids' books.
Like, yeah, and young adult books. I mean,
yeah, young adult. Yeah, like kids, young adults. I tend to just group them together, but like in 30 seconds, the cover with like the owl and the girl or whatever,
something glowing and then looking down.
The title, the unfamiliar familiar, the fact that it's part of a series. Every description they gave when Steven was describing them, I'm like, wow, this is every single thing that I have seen in the past 20 years in young adult fiction. Not saying that's a bad thing, by the way. I think young adult fiction overall is pretty good.
The fact that anyone
nowadays,
is fucking reading now is really amazing.
Yeah, so
especially kids.
That's not like I'm pissing on young adult fiction. No, I'm just saying this, it's so nailed the kind of like style and tropes that we've been in the past like 15 to 20 years. I'd say even pre-Harry Potter, like a little bit.
Well, because there's Golden
like,
Compass mainly I got out of that.
Yeah, I was thinking Golden Compass, Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, Artemis Fowl, I'm blanking on it.
Well, I'm sure you named it off.
Yeah, there's a series of even older books that were about like... But the Oversea and Under Stone was the first one in the series. Anyway, it was really good. They made a really shitty movie out of it not too long ago. The YouTube will explain it. But the commenters will be like, that movie? Was it The Watcher? Was
That's
it
the YouTube
Wait,
comments do like half the work for us. We don't remember something. It's like, look in the comments, you'll see it.
Yeah, it was a series of 4 or 5 books. They were all really good. The first one was Oversea Understone, and then they called the movie The Seeker or The Watcher or something. It was fucking terrible. I sat through like 20 minutes. It was nothing like the book. So I'm totally blanking on it right now, but all of those books, it was a good spoof of like all of those books.
Well, and I was wondering if like when he reads them out of order and she's like, no, you know who Plinkett is? That's Lisa's father, and you're not supposed to know that yet. You're reading them out of order.
I'm gonna look it up.
Okay, this is purely a you thing because like the comments are gonna explain it. And they're gonna,
I know, but it's
there are probably
driving
5
me
already
nuts.
who haven't finished the video, and they're just like, I've already said what it is.
I don't care. It's driving me nuts right now. I want to know now.
But here's my theory. I'm wondering if the when she's like so shocked that he's read ahead and he's reading them out of order, if that's a comment on people watching this show out of order and getting
it was
information.
the first entry in Google.
Yay.
Dark is Rising. See, that's the problem. I kept wanting to say is Dark Materials. I'm like, no. I'm like, it was Dark something. The Dark is Rising series or sequence. They're really awesome. You should read them. And I also felt like it was kind of spoofing that and like, yeah. Now those are older though. That's like 1965. But like, they keep getting re-released.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they go back, but they've had a huge boom recently. Well,
I feel like a lot of
10,
recent
15 years.
fiction, young adult fiction, owes something to kind of that. Obviously, Tolkien, Wizard of Earthsea,
Yeah.
C.S. Lewis, all of that. So, but yeah, like so, brilliant spoof of everything that's been going on in the past 20 years in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, it was one of the best written bits I've ever seen in like a kid show. So
Well, and they had the episode prior. I think they had some of those books, or maybe not. But the father said, "Really, books are popular again?" And it is one of those things where it's like, I mean, people growing up now, it's like because young adult books and kids books. I mean, they've just put so much more effort. Hell, really, anything kind of kid related has much more effort now than it was when we were growing up.
I felt like in the 80s it was more video games.
Yeah, and we definitely have that too,
media,
but
comics, but yeah, I mean, I feel like the high schoolers were still reading through the 80s and there was a lot of good stuff going on, but I always
it's
felt
like
for
huge.
kids books, like the 80s, I'm trying to think, I'm like, I don't remember a lot of reading.
No, I mean, Harry Potter is really the thing that
Kind of
did
read
that.
because you had to.
Yeah, Harry Potter was like the huge explosion, like, we're gonna make reading actually popular. I mean, before it was like, if you read, it's like, well, okay, but who does that? You're a bookworm, you're a nerd and stuff like that, but it's like, not just, everybody fucking reads Harry Potter and all that stuff. So it is one of those things where it's like, it's fucking wonderful. I mean, I'm so happy but I think you're right in how they sort of summed up that young adult almost genre. All you need,
the young adult
thing you need now-
fantasy, the young adult fantasy genre.
and then
I think is
somehow,
what needs to be said.
it's sort of a different genre, maybe not, but throw in the apocalypse, or like, not the apocalypse, a world taken over by an evil authority in 1984.
I loved the titles too. Were killing me. Destiny's End. I'm like, man, they really nailed it.
No, they really, really got it.
But in a like.
A playful way. It was not
a loving,
insulting.
and that's what I liked about it too. Is not insulting that style of book. It just was like, here it is, like kind of our spoof of all of these things. I'm like, wow, it really freaking nailed it.
This show, something I'm noticing, this show has, while it's funny and intense and interesting and stuff, it has this fascinating power of not being mean-spirited. Nothing seems mean-spirited about it. Everybody looks different and odd and is strange, but they're very rarely insulting about it.
Maybe that's why we fucking hate Lars, because he's like the only outlier. Like,
he's the only one that hates everything and stuff like that.
He's still mostly harmless, but he's just annoying.
Yeah, you're right. He's the only one that seems kind of mean-spirited.
Yeah.
Like, everyone else, just has, like, they'll say an insult here or there, but it's
Lars is cynical and mean-spirited, while Ronaldo's just a fucking psycho.
Yeah. The less we know about them, the better. But anywho, no, I thought this was a good good exposition while also trying to figure out what's going on, and again, sort of teaching kind of an interesting lesson about like when it's right to be diplomatic, when it's right to take action, but there's no solid answers. I really like that, and I like, again, I sort of felt like we kind of started this with Batman the Animated Series, but I like these kid shows that say
Moral ambiguity.
Yeah, there are no solid answers. You just got.
Well, that's what made
your
Batman
best
so
guess.
great. Like, really, half the time, it's like, did Batman create this villain, or would they have been this twisted if he wasn't there? But
Yeah.
occasionally, you gotta look at it and have to wonder.
My favorite is it's just one episode where Batman just leans over to Robin and says, "Sometimes there are no happy endings," and I'm just like, I love this show.
Oh, Batman, thanks. I feel better now.
So, yeah, a good episode. Curious where it's going, and I think we should. Now that the formula is down and concrete, somebody should clearly write the unfamiliar familiar, and somehow have Destiny's End be the first book, just to throw people off.
Steven, are you reading them in order?
What's a familiar? So that's it. Bye. No funny ending on that one.